All right, welcome everybody to Aftershocks Tremors right here on Heavy Metal Television with myself, Matt Hart, and of course my partner Chris Aiken. And damn, Chris, it's been a while since we've done one of these. I mean,
I
it's
know.
been God, what about I think it was the end of November of last year in 2020. So it's been about 8 months or so since we've done a Tremors. Of course, back then it was live, a little bit different that what we're doing now, but it's fun to get back to doing Tremors. And obviously what we focus on with Tremors. Last year when we did do it live, we've obviously we would have a newer band or two alongside one or two more established and well-known musicians and artists.
Sure.
But so now this year, we obviously resurrected it. Now we're bringing it back for Heavy Metal Television, and but we're going to focus more now on really the not so much the established bands and artists. It's going to be mostly focused on the up and coming and newer bands and artists or anybody within the industry that we feel that could use a good plug or a good interview to sort of promote a good product that they have. So yeah, I'm excited to do this again, man, and should be a lot of fun.
I am too, dude. And I mean the thing that I like about what we're gonna do with Tremors is we're gonna talk some news. We're gonna talk news about what's going on in the
Mhm.
in the world of rock and metal, but at the same
Mhm.
time, we're gonna introduce people to a lot of good bands. So,
Mhm.
like today, we're gonna put the hook in your mouth with some Soulfly talk, and then right when you're about to escape off, we're gonna slide in a new band for you to pay attention to as well. So it's
Absolutely.
it's gonna be fun, and the focus has been for me and you both since we started well before there was a heavy metal television or a CMS podcast network or a CMS network or CMS TV or any of these other things. When it
Mhm.
was just me and you looking for something to do outside of Shockwave Skull Sessions and Classic Metal Show, we wanted to focus on bands that people didn't know because me and
Mhm.
you are hardcore, digging deeper than the average person metal
Mhm.
fans. So
Yeah,
this is like the perfect outlet. And plus I just like to shoot the shit talking about bands. You know,
totally. Mhm.
uh, you'd think I would get some of that on the Classic Metal Show, but I don't. So now I get to here.
Well, that's what we got this for. But and I agree with you. I think, and one of the things that when you look at all these podcasts, I think we've mentioned this last year. We were doing Tremors Live. Is a lot of them just don't. Everybody wants to get the big artists. Everybody
Yeah.
wants to get the when these big artists and well established artists come around, they do the whole podcast circuit. It's great, but then all of a sudden you've got 10 podcasts that have the same guy on around the same time. So what we're very, I mean, I'm not trying to like put us up on a pedestal, but we're very different in the terms that, we're, even though we're older guys ourselves, we still love hearing and discovering new music and bands where a lot of people just kind of want to, well, I don't like all this new stuff that's coming out. I just want to talk about, stuff that happened in the past. Now we're trying to we really want to give, some sort of platform to these newer bands. And we hear it all the time from these bands, right? They're like, we love what you guys are doing because, everybody forgets about the little guys. And I think that's one of the reasons why we don't, there hasn't been such a huge surge in, newer bands making a mark for themselves is because no one's really helping them promote getting their music out there and getting their product out there and stuff. So yeah, that's one thing I think that we do. And like I said, I'm not trying to say we're better because of that, but I wish more people would do it that way. But at least we can do it on our part. And like I said, we enjoy it. It's one of the reasons why we kind of started Aftershocks TV to begin with.
I'll say it. We're better than every fucking buddy.
All right, fine, fuck it. Yeah.
We're better than the rest, goddammit, and that's why we're doing it.
There we go.
But,
Nice, man.
no, it is fun, dude. It's so, and I know it burns your ass the way it does mine when you see knotheads like fucking not D Snyder, but what's his name, Gene Simmons, saying,
Mhm.
"Oh, rock is dead. There's nobody with good attitude. There's nobody with good rock." And they're just flat out wrong, man.
Mhm. Super wrong.
There's so many great bands out there right now.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
mean, of every different style of metal, you can go to the radio rock stuff, and you can look at Wolfie Van Halen's band Mammoth, or you can look at
Mhm.
Plush, or you can look at you can go into like stoner stuff, like this new Cassius King record, which
Mhm.
I
Awesome.
mean, awesome type stuff. There's new death metal out there, like onto others and stuff like that.
Mhm.
There's new metal out being made that is as good as anything everybody can name. but nobody knows about it because it's like, well, wait a minute. D. Snyder's doing 3 press days. We better jump on that, man. And I'm not going to say that we're not jumping on it. We certainly do. We'll do the big names, but we're, it's funny. In the last few months, you and I have both gone back and forth saying, man, we're doing too many big,
No, that's true. Yeah.
We're doing too many because we did get a lot of opportunities to do some big stuff, and we did, but it should be balanced. It should be and that's what we're going to try to do for every Fear Factory that we interview. We want to interview a Void Vader or a Guhts as we're going to do today, or, we should be digging a little bit deeper and finding these bands and showing these bands to people that are never fed this stuff by either Pandora or YouTube or whatever, I mean, it's hard to get found these days, and we're trying to do that.
Well, yeah, and I think you used the good word there, balance. I mean, obviously, if when we started Aftershocks, as we were talking about, one of the major things, if not the major thing, was focusing on newer bands. At the same time, if we just focus on newer bands and we don't mix it up with some well-established artists and bands in between there, and no one's really going to take it that seriously. If we're just a podcast that has all these unknown name bands, you're probably not going to get as much attention, notoriety, or visibility, whatever it is that you would get if you're sandwiched between a couple of well-established artists. And so that's really, to a lot of people, I know, I think some of the people that we were working with earlier when we started this might have, noticed that, okay, well, you guys started off that way. Now you're bringing in bigger bands. And then, for a while we were kind of, it's because the opportunities were there. We couldn't pass them up, but it's always been in the back of our heads. The reason why we're doing that is so that, we get a lot of, you'll get more eyes and ears on for newer bands on your music if you're on with us, if we've got well-established artists as well that we're working with. So just one of the other points we want to put out there is that it's still our main focus, but we've obviously got to do, and we do of course enjoy talking to these artists, these bigger names as well. But to us, our passion really is working with these newer bands. And we want to be the first ones to say we were the first guys to interview that band or to bring that band to the forefront. There's always going to be some platform that is the first that took a chance and started, featuring a band. And obviously now with Heavy Metal Television added to that, when we do the show here, we follow it up with a video from the band so that people aren't just going to listen to their interview. They got to actually hear their music and see a video right after we're done interviewing them, like we're going to be doing with Guhts in a little bit here. So yeah, just to throw that out there, just to let the listeners and viewers know that, that's one of the reasons why we do also include a lot of the bigger name artists, so that, it helps get more eyes and ears for the newer bands. It's the only way to do it. Just like, think about Headbangers Ball back in the day, right? They introduced a lot of new bands, but of course they played a lot of bands that everyone knew already too. So it's similar in that regards as well.
Oh, and dude, anybody that's old enough to remember when MTV played videos, what did they do? They weren't playing old videos.
Exactly.
They're playing new videos. They're old now, but when they're playing Michael Jackson's Thriller, that wasn't an old song. That was a song nobody had ever heard before.
Sure. I mean, we're Welcome to the Jungle, right? Guns N' Roses. I mean, that thing was out there for a while. It was only played at like midnight or whatever. And eventually it got, enough people saw it, requested it, and then it got huge. I mean, that's just how it, I think, I think that's just a way that people will, and will eventually gravitate towards newer bands and music. I mean, we've gotten, emails and stuff from our listeners. Some people have said, hey, I listened to that one interview and I want to go ahead and picking up that record because it sounded good. The guy sounded cool. I heard the music and boom, I went ahead and picked it up. So that's really the way it happens, so, anyway, I mean, we can go on about this forever, but once again, we're just glad to be back doing this.
Hey everybody, this is Johnny Giueli from Hardline, Axel Rudy Pell, Crush 40. Oh, I could go on and on and on. But you're watching right now the one and only Heavy Metal TV. Yes.
Hey, this is Monty Colvin from the band Galactic Cowboys and from Monty's Rockcast, inviting you to watch my new video show here on Heavy Metal Television called Art That Rocks. I'll be painting rock stars from start to finish while I tell some cool stories. It's Friday night at 8 p.m. no matter where you are. Once again, the name of the show is Art That Rocks.
In the beginning, there was... Oh, wait, let me fix it. Oh, no. Oh, no, that's not good.
And yeah, so let's talk about the big news this week in hard rock and metal news. Obviously, yeah, is a lot of stuff coming out of the Soulfly camp. Obviously, Dino Cazares from Fear Factory is going to be touring with them on their upcoming tour. And out after 18 years in the band is their guitarist Marc Rizzo. And just, I guess, to preface the story a little bit, obviously, I think the interesting part of the story that has everyone a little bit, up in arms about the whole thing was that Dino was announced as the touring guitarist before there was anything released about Rizzo's exit from the band. So I think that left everybody a bit, confused of what was going on. And then a few days later, Max Cavalera did come out on his weekly Max Tracks social media stream and basically said that Rizzo was pretty much, I guess, fired or let go for personal reasons and issues. Mark then did an interview himself and said he left the band, and a lot of it had to do with not being supported by Soulfly during the pandemic with the management, and just kind of being left to hang out there without any support. So there's obviously a lot of, I don't want to get too much in the weeds there, but all I'm going to say, and I'll let you take it over from here, is that after 18 years in the band with Soulfly, and Marc Rizzo not being there, that is a monstrous loss for them. Mark is, I think, one of the most underrated guitarists in metals. He's a super multi-dimensional player. I mean, he can play all different types of styles, whether it's thrash or death metal, new metal. He plays his flamenco stuff that he does phenomenally well, where he mixes it in with metal that he does with the soul stuff. So I think this is just going to be a monumental loss, and I don't know what they're going to do to recoup, because this guy is such a staple in that band. 18 years, that is a long, long time in a band.
Well, I mean, I think everybody will agree that, Soulfly is, of course, Max Cavalera.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's to the level of Megadeth is Dave Mustaine. It's at the same type of level. But that being said, Marc Rizzo was the sound for most. I mean, he came in what, on the 3 album? Is that right? Is that when he came in?
Yeah, I think he was on the 3rd, or either 2nd or 3rd he came in. He wasn't there earlier, but 2nd or 3rd he came in.
Two. And the first 2 had a decidedly different,
totally sound,
new metal-ish sort of sound. And then Mark came in and really gave that band direction. And
I agree.
And man, and everything since has had that direction, and now it's not there. And you're right, he's a tremendously talented player, and to not have him in Soulfly is going to be a big loss. I'm going to be honest, even though it's not as big of a band, I think him not being in Cavalier Conspiracy, because after this interview, he's not. True. I think with him not being in there, that's going to be an even bigger loss, because now what's going to differentiate the sound between Soulfly and Cav Conspiracy? It was the wide variation of playing that Mark had.
Exactly.
And now that's gone. So now it's going to be all left to Max to write. And God knows he has too many projects anyway, between Cav Conspiracy and Soulfly and Go Ahead and Die. And what's the other one that he's got?
Killer Be Killed. Killer Be Killed.
And, there's too many bands. And for him, it's probably you would hope that Cavalier Conspiracy or Killer Be Killed, one of them two, would go away, or Go Ahead and Die, because that band just blows. But you would think that something's got to give without Rizzo being there, because it's going to hurt him bad. And
well, yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead. No, I was just going to say, just to throw in real quick, I didn't see this personally, but I've got a good friend of mine who's a huge Max fan. Has been a Max fan for years, big early Sepultura fan. And I was supposed to go to a Soulfly show it's probably about 1.5 years to 2 years ago with him. I wasn't able to, but what he reported to me from the show was that, Max is really, like I said, this is just what he told me, but he was really sloppy up on live playing on stage. And I've heard a few people actually say that, and let's be, I think we could be honest. I mean, I think Max, in terms of, yes, he is Soulfly in terms of obviously, what obviously lyrically, he writes all the lyrics. His singing style is unique, Max, which everyone loves his voice. Now, in terms of his guitar playing, though, it's kind of suspect because we saw what happened when Max left Sepultura and started Soulfly. You could tell Max was the main, I would think, songwriter riff guy on, say, Roots, right? But when you look at their classic albums, when you hear, KSAD and you hear Rise, I think a lot of that was more Andreas Kisser, and you could tell that who was really the guitar, main guitarist when he left, because, Soulfly really was just an extension, I thought, of Roots, similar sound, similar new metal, very, basic 3-chord stuff, where, and that's what it was for those first 2 records, right? I mean, he had to bring on a lot of guests to kind of mix it up when he had, on the second album, or in the first album. And then once Marc came along, there wasn't that many guests, maybe some vocal guests, because he had that, that player that can do all what he needed to do. And I just want to be honest with you, Max, like I said, I'm a huge fan of him, don't get me wrong, but I don't, there's no way that he can make up for what he's going to be losing with Marc. No. Now, of course, whoever he hires next, I mean, look, Dino, great replacement to going on tour with him, but Dino's not going to be obviously his long-term solution. He's just going to tour with him, but he's going to have to come up and find either some really young virtuoso guy or, a guy who can replace a guy like Marc in that capacity with that level of, expertise and professionalism, with either obviously a younger guy, because once again, right, I mean, you're not going to want some brand new guy coming in, you have to pay him a lot of money. So he's going to, especially with the catalog they have, he's going to have to get someone who can play Marc's parts, who can create the way Marc did in order to keep the band moving forward. That's a hell of a task to do. I mean, at this stage, I think, in their career. So this is a big task for him to do that going forward. Yeah.
And I will say this about that. I've seen Soulfly pretty much every tour. I'm like you, I'm a huge fan. I mean, saw Sepultura on every tour from Arise. So I'm a fan.
Sure.
And Max is not very good anymore. I mean, his voice isn't very good. He's definitely sloppy. And what I think is going to be the biggest problem with Dino in the band now, this is going to be a stationary band on the level of ZZ Top. I mean, Dino Cazares is not moving around. He's a big dude.
True.
He's not going to be running around the stage. He's finding his spot, and he's going to stay there and play his riffs. Max, the last couple of tours, and you can go to YouTube and see it. What does he do? He walks out to the middle of the stage, pulls his mic down, and he doesn't move till he's done.
That's true. Yeah, true. Yeah.
So you are going to have 3 of the 4 guys sitting in place for an hour. And I don't care who the band is. That's boring.
Yeah.
That's boring.
It is boring. And the thing is I did read that supposedly they're going to be playing some Fear Factory songs. And that, to me, I just think that's silly. I know Dino's in there now, but what does Soulfly have to do with Fear Factory? You know what I mean? It's like, I just think, I'll just, like I said, I mean, I'm one of, anybody who knows us here knows that we're such huge Fear Factory fans and Dino fans. So it has nothing to do with that. I love both bands and both artists.
Yeah.
But what sense does that make if this guy's coming on one tour and you're going to throw out some Fear Factory classics? I mean, that just makes no sense to me whatsoever. None.
Is there anybody that's clamoring to hear Max Cavalera sing Replica?
Well, exactly. That's the other thing. Exactly. Who's going to sing Burton's vocal? I mean, I mean, I don't know if they'll do a medley. Who knows what they're going to do? But I just think it's kind of silly, and just going back, quick. I mean, to an interview that's been, being recycled all over the news. That with this story that you did about 3 years ago with Max.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go on Blabbermouth, you read the stories about this. It's put in that interview you did with him. They're recycling that, and Max basically said he doesn't know what the hell he's going to do if Marc ever left the band. Yeah. Well, here he is. He got rid of him, supposedly, if he got rid of him or not. But here he is now. What are you going to do, Max? I mean, maybe with that interview, in the question you asked him, it seemed like he knew without Mark, that is a monumental loss to this band.
Yeah, it is, dude. I mean, I just can't see. I can't see it working. You know, I mean, I don't want to say it's the end of the band because I'm sure there's some hotshot out there that would do anything to play with Max Cavalera.
Sure.
At least until he starts, you know, if the rumors are true and, you know, from what Mark is saying, at least until he starts getting neglected. And then it's like, how much of a name can you make off of Max Cavalera before you split? But, you know, I don't know, man. I saw this news and I was not happy. I wasn't happy to see that Mark left. And I certainly, you would think I might be excited about Dino joining, but I'm not.
No.
It's like, you know, it's like, man, that is just a bad mixture of Dino needs to figure out what he's going to do with Fear Factory.
Exactly.
Not take the fall off to go play Soulfly tunes.
Well, that's another interesting thing too. You know, when we talked to Dino, the plan was, I mean, I know that they're still working on getting the singer. They probably already have it, I'm sure. I know he said
Cavalera.
Yeah, right. Well, maybe, who knows, right? Maybe is that what's going to happen? Is Max going to be the new Fear Factory singer? Now I mean, he can't do that, obviously.
It's Fear Fly.
You know, Fear Fly, yeah. Soul Factory. Yeah. But yeah, it's just a very, I mean, I'm sure Dino, you know, he can use some money to have to be on the road for a year and a half. And, you know, I just don't, I mean, like I said, we're huge fans of both of those guys and their bands, but to do what they're doing, I just think it's kind of silly. And the one thing I don't hope he doesn't do, Max, okay, is hire a guitarist from one of his son's bands or something. You know, I mean, the one thing that, you know, and like I said, I understand. I do applaud the fact that he has this sort of, you know, familial aspect to the band. You know, they keep it very in-house. When he goes on tour, he mostly tours with, you know, his son's bands or these bands that are from Arizona where he lives. And, you know, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I think that's a cool thing, but once in a while, I mean, and he has done it. I think last year, the last time they did tour, they had Unearth join the tour. And so he's got some bands that get on, but a lot of times, you know, when he comes out with these packages, it's with these unknown bands, you know what I mean? And it's just like, it doesn't help because as big as Soulfly is, they're not that big where these days, especially now coming out of the pandemic, and you have all this, you know, you're going to be competing with everyone where they're going to spend their money because everyone's going to be on the road. If you're coming out with Soulfly and I forget what I can't think of Insight. That's a bit, you know, his son's band Insight and Lodi Kai, you know, Lodi Kong and these bands that are all his son. Don't get, and I'm not trying to tamp them down. They're okay, the bands, but they're not going to.
No, they're not. Don't lie.
They're okay. I mean, I don't think they're horrible, but they're okay. Well, they're not, like I said, I don't own anything by them, but I listen to them. But okay, well, all right.
I hate them.
Okay, you hate them. All right. I think they're just average. You know, I won't say they're horrendous, but that, like I said, they're not going to get more people to come out and see your show, and that's not going to help you sell tickets. You know what I mean? If it's just Soulfly, you're going to have to go on a package tour, and having Dino come along and go, oh, Dino, look, Fear Factory, it's not going to do it, in my opinion. I'm not going to go see it. Even though, like I said, we're huge fans. So anyway, I mean, I just think it's he's in a hell of a pickle right now. And like I said, he's better come up with definitely a guitarist that can come along and do something. But I know I have a feeling he's just going to come, you know, hire a guitarist from a semi-known band that maybe nobody knows much about, and it's just not going to do it. I really don't think it's going to do it.
I'll tell you what I hope does not happen. I hope that Soulfly doesn't fall apart to the level that finally Max calls Andreas. Because, you know, and I know I'm in the minority on this, but I don't want to see him back in Sepultura at all.
I don't either, man. You know,
because first of all, they won't play any of the stuff that they've done in the last 20 years or whatever it's been. And I say this every single time I talk about Sepultura, and I'll continue to say it. If you're one of these people that hasn't listened to the stuff, the Derek Green stuff, you have missed a ton of great metal, because there are some great, I would say, the early stuff wasn't really like Sepul Nation and stuff like that. Nation, that was not a very good record, and
Against
was not very
it was not good. Yeah.
But man, from like Dante XXI to
Quadra now.
Alex Quadra was really good. Mediator was really good. Messiah was really good.
Messiah was good. Yeah.
I mean, these are these are phenomenal records that nobody really listened to. And they would just pretend like they don't exist and just stick to Chaos AD and Arise. And not that those are bad records. Obviously they're two of my favorite records of all time, but I like Sepultura the way it is. I like Soulfly the way it was. Yeah, I don't want to see them come back together and kill one or the other.
No, and I think I think with Sepultura, with Derek Green, at first I don't think a lot of people were going to embrace it. When I did see them live, when they first had them, they were playing most of the classics, right? On the first or second record, you only sprinkled in a few of the newer songs. But like you said, it's been 20 years now. Yeah. I'd say over the last at least decade, they put out, I think Quadra, their last record that came out a year and a half ago, was a great record where I think it finally, it's, even including for me, myself, where, I'm at the point now where to me, Sepultura has nothing to do with Max anymore. It's no more Max. It's Derek. Hey, that last album really proved to me that this is it. It took 20 years, but to me, it's like they are now a non-Max band. When I listen to the old stuff, I just think of, okay, that's like the Mach 1 and Mach 2 type of thing. That's Mach 1 with Max, Mach 2 with Derek. It's been 20 years. They are their own band now. I don't think they'll ever go back to that. Why would they want to go? Just for a payday? No, they've already, let's think about it. It's taken them so long to finally get to the place where people now are recognizing them without Max. That would be the stupidest move on their part, and I don't believe they'll do that. I think Andreas has been pretty consistent with saying we have no interest of really going back with Max, and then they shouldn't do it.
And the only way they would do it is if Gloria wasn't part of the package, and there's no chance that's happening. So,
well, and I'm sure she probably had something to do with Mark not being there as well. So, it usually happens that way. So, who would want to deal with that again once again? But so anyway. Big news coming out of that camp, and I think I just hope for the best that Soulfly does the right thing and doesn't go with a no-name guitarist, and they can continue to, because the last 10 years of Soulfly albums I've been phenomenal. So it's just great. So it's really another sad piece of news over the last couple of years here with all the shit that's been going on. But life goes on, and Soulfly will go on, and hopefully they get someone good to replace Mark. But anyway, so anything else you want to say before we wrap up this segment? No.
Why don't we take a break and play a couple videos, and then bring on the gang from Guhts.
That's right. We got Guhts coming on, a band out of New York, a very different type of band. Reminds me a little bit of like Neurosis, with like Faith No More and Deftones mixed in there. It's got like that kind of alternative-y, very, very 90s sounding to me. Sure. And really good stuff. One thing I'm starting to see a lot of these bands that we're getting, these newer bands for these press releases we're getting is that kind of 90s sound, whether it's groove metal type or the more of the groovy death metal type, or like I said, this alternative stuff. It's sort of starting to come back to the forefront here over the last few years, I think, with some of these bands. So it should be good,
dude. But it's been 30 years.
I know. Well, you're right. It's time, because we've seen now new metal coming back in for the last few years, especially if not the last decade. Yeah. So I think it is time for the 90s now. It's becoming like the new classic rock sound, starting with grunge, going up to new metal, and we're starting to hear a lot of that stuff come to fruition. So I'm glad to hear it, because that's pretty much my wheelhouse. That's what I grew up with mostly. My teen years, and I started going to shows was all in the 90s. So I'm loving that. So Guhts is a pretty cool band.
Yeah, I like them. I like them a lot, man. And again, they're one of these bands, like we said at the very beginning, one of those bands that if guys like us ain't exposing them, they're not getting exposed.
Exactly. So cool. All right. Well, like you said, let's take a break here with some videos. We'll come back with our Tremors edition here with our first interview back with Tremors with Guhts. And so let's take a break, and we'll be back in a bit.
John Drake from Talking Into Infinity, a Dream Theater podcast here. Are you into stuff other than hard rock or heavy metal? Specifically, are you into, say, Star Wars? Well, if you are, I have a kick-ass Star Wars show that you've got to go check out. It's mine. It's called the Nerf Herder Council, and we go live every other Wednesday at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. It's definitely not your typical Star Wars show. We don't take ourselves too seriously, and we don't take Star Wars itself too seriously. The conversation is basically what you'd hear if you went to a bar and ran into three dummies just sitting at the bar getting drunk and talking about Star Wars. So if you are into Star Wars, go check out the Nerf Herder Council. You can find us at nerfherdercouncil.com. And again, we do go live every other Wednesday at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Facebook and our YouTube channel. So check out the show, and may the Force be with you.
All right, we're back here with another episode of Aftershocks Tremors right here on Heavy Metal Television. And on today's episode, I'd like to welcome to the show from New York's post-metal outfit, Guhts. Right, it's Guhts, right, guys?
Yes, it is. Yep.
Yes, okay, perfect. We got Scott and Amber with us today. Guys, how you doing? Thanks for coming on with us.
Good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we're doing good.
Awesome, man. All right, well, let's talk about Guhts. You guys obviously getting ready to release your debut EP, Blood Feather. It comes out later this week. And for what I've been reading, you guys are a pandemic baby in terms of the band coming together. You guys kind of got Guhts together throughout the last year and a half or so during the pandemic. Really a cool sound, really unique sound I think you guys got. So why don't we just have you guys start off by just, I guess, give us a brief overview of how the band sort of indeed came together, you know, during the pandemic and how you put together this really cool EP.
You want me to go?
Yeah, go for it.
Sure.
Basically, I mean, I think you should start it off because it was kind of your project. It was like a solo project,
No, I think
basically.
you should start it off and you say it again.
Well,
Yeah, so basically, I was starting to write material for our other band, which you'll see on the drum back there in the background. And I was kind of struggling to like line it up with the sound of that band. And so then I started working on like instrumental solo project with it. And basically Amber would hear it from the other room and started having like ideas, and I wouldn't let her try her ideas.
I was getting jealous.
Yeah. I wanted to keep it as my own kind of solo thing.
Okay.
And then one day I let her try something, and it just all started clicking after that. Like I started hearing more based on what she was doing, and it just started to develop, and it's pretty much how it all started.
And we grew from there.
Very cool.
And
I mean, I begged, so
Yeah,
I was
she
begging
begged.
you. I was like, please,
begged.
just let me try. We
Yeah.
can just try it.
and you know, being stuck inside, and now we haven't played a show in over 2 years now, which is torture. That's kind of what inspired a lot of what I wrote and gave me a lot of time to write also.
Very cool. Yeah, awesome. Well, yeah, I mean, you just alluded to right there. You guys are in another band called Witch Kiss, as you see right back there on the drum head there. Definitely a different. Guhts is definitely a lot different, obviously, than Witch Kiss. I mean, I think there's a lot of similarities in terms of maybe the ambiance and the atmosphere in many ways. But with Witch Kiss, you know, obviously it's much more doomier, and I think, and angry and angst-ridden. Among some other things. So, I mean, when it comes to the music itself, and because of really how serious and intense the musically and lyrically Witch Kiss is Guhts sort of like that balance, you know, that you need to, you know, with Witch Kiss because of, you know, I mean, what we hear on Blood Feather, I mean, Amber, your vocals, and I think the overall feel of the music, it seems a little more hopeful than what Witch Kiss brings to the table, which to me is just straight, you know, down the rabbit hole of despair, so to speak. So, I mean, is that really what Guhts is with you guys, sort of a more of a hopeful balancing than what you do with Witch Kiss, or it offers something, you know, a bit different between the two bands?
I don't know. I mean, hopeful, I guess. I just feel like it's more free.
Okay.
Like there's like a little bit more freedom with creating because we weren't playing live.
Okay.
So we kept saying like, fuck it. Let's just keep adding shit, you know, and it got more experimental.
Yeah.
So, but I can see what you're saying, hopeful. Like it's a little bit, some of the layers are a little bit lighter, but sometimes I feel like it's more intense feeling, right? When you say it lyrically.
Yeah, definitely.
Just because I'm touching on raw emotions. Like I feel like I'm definitely like a feelings writer, you know, like I put my feelings out there. So I think it comes out differently in each project.
Sure.
Making sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, absolutely.
So,
Yeah, definitely.
But it's definitely freer just because we didn't have any hangups like, oh, how are we going to do this live? Because we knew we weren't going anywhere right away, you know?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, and it's definitely freer in the sense too of what Amber can do vocally, because Witch Kiss, she's also the drummer.
Oh yeah,
and
that's
sings.
another thing.
So like Witch Kiss is much more simple, I guess, and it's kind of like Witch Kiss is kind of like a grunge doom band, because we definitely come from like a grungy kind of background and influences, and the Guhts is really more of like a well thought out machine that we're just trying to build this huge thing, which we've always wanted to do, and now we got the chance to do it.
Yeah, like bigger performance wise, like if we ever get to be live.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, no, very cool. Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, musically, you know, what I hear with Guhts, I mean, to me, I hear like a blend of like Neurosis, Deftones, even some like Faith No More-ish. So, like a lot of that 90s, like a lot of 90s, you know, sort of industrial alternative noise rock sort of thing going on, like amalgamation, I think, of all those kind of sounds. And like I said, you got the synthesizers, which I think sound really great on the record. And I mean, I think personally, like you said, a band like Guhts, you guys really just sort of scratching the surface, obviously, of what you're wanting to accomplish, I think, musically. So talk a bit about, I guess, the sound that you guys have created so far. I mean, what is it that you want people to, you know, music fans to sort of take away when they hear Guhts or when they eventually, you know, go to see you live?
So the whole band, the reason we called it Guhts, and we didn't spell it as it's typically spelled because we want to be different. It's basically, we want you to be able to feel it in your gut, because we don't really settle on something until we feel it ourselves. Like there's stuff I listen back to and like I basically cry every time I listen back to it because it's really hitting me that hard. And that's what we're trying to accomplish with this. So like if the fans can feel it, then that's all that we want. We just want people to feel it.
Sure. Do you think that, you know, since you built this band kind of in the pandemic and it was kind of a locked in build, I'll call it, for putting the band together and the sound and whatnot, do you think that you've honed in on what the sound is going to be? Or do you think that it's going to change with the, you know, with going out and with developing and with, you know, probably changing musicians and people here and there in the process?
We've only just begun. So what we have planned as far as, so this EP was kind of like you said, all kind of like home built. And we have our other member, Dan, who's down in North Carolina, who did a lot of the synth stuff and guitar. What we have planned for recording the actual album is going completely past this. We plan on opening this up much bigger than we've already built it. So,
sure. Sure. Now, Matt also alluded to the things that he heard, and I hear the same things, especially the Neurosis and Deftones type of a thing. For you guys personally, which do you pull more influence from? Do you pull more from the heavier side, like the Neurosis type thing, or do you pull from more of that drabby kind of drag you along sound that the Deftones have done, especially in more recent records?
I think both. Yeah, because we listen to a lot of different music.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you, Deftones have been my favorite band ever since I read the Thrasher article in 1990. 1990 or 1992. So they're a huge influence for me. Faith No More, like you said, is a huge influence. Love them. Neurosis. I mean, we love all of that stuff. Even bands like Gojira, you know, we just, we love all of it. So.
Nice.
Cool. Yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit about the story of Handless Maiden, because I found that in the little tiny bit of press I could find, I found that to be an interesting story.
Did you start reading it? Did you read about?
I only literally discovered it yesterday when I was getting ready for this, so I have not even seen the book yet.
Well, it's basically a story about a woman's rite of passage, like going into the underworld.
Okay.
And in the story, like when you break it down, because I'm more into like how the writer, the book that I read in, The Women Who Run with the Wolves, how she breaks it down, and that we live in a society that does not celebrate that strength of going down underneath. Instead, most people try to hide it and live a life of like what we should be doing type of thing. And instead of just going under and dealing and accepting your pain and coming out stronger. You know, the things like in the story, it deals with taking away a woman's innocence. It's a rite of passage, basically, you know? So I felt like I wanted to make that into a song.
Nice.
You know, because I think a lot of people can relate to that. You know, a lot of young girls. I'm a hairdresser on the side, so I talk to a lot of people all day long. And I see people struggling with that. So I feel like it's a good thing to write about. Like a lot of people can relate. Maybe it can free some people up, you know, to accept that.
Absolutely. No, I think it's a great concept. You know, one of the things I love to talk about with a lot of newer bands these days is existing as an independent band. I mean, the days of record labels being, you know, really an option for a band to ascend from, you know, really the underground and kind of, you know, get out of being sort of an obsolete, you know, just local band. It's kind of obviously really tough, you know, to make happen these days because there's, you know, the labels aren't there anymore. There's not as much money in the industry as it used to be. Is it possible, because you guys have been doing this for a while with Witch Kiss, you've been independent musicians, is it possible in your opinion to, you know, really maintain a level of success as an independent band, to be able to, you know, really continue to do what you want to do? I mean, not necessarily having to be, say, something that's going to support you completely full time, but for, you know, I mean, you guys have been doing this for a while. For you guys personally, for example, I guess we'll just start with that. Do you look at it as something where you're just kind of putting out your music as projects just to see if people like it? Or is this something that you really would like to do, to tour, you know, consistently, whether it's overseas or around the country here in the States or Canada? Is that something that you're looking to do as an independent band, or is it just mostly we're just sort of expressing ourselves, putting out music, and, you know, people will take it as they will?
I think we would love to tour.
Yeah, no,
make it our whole life.
Yeah, we would love to do. We would love to do this full time. Yeah, I mean, obviously, we would love to have the support of, you know, that amazing record label that totally supports what we're doing. But I think it's possible. It's a lot of work for an independent band, especially like it's a lot of, one thing we struggle with is all of the social media stuff that we have to do constantly. But you know, we have a marketing team that's helping teach us, and we are getting better. I should say I struggle with it the most, because I would rather be writing music or doing something else.
It is easier if you're just touring. I mean, we discovered that with Witch Kiss. Like, we started out doing weekend shows, right?
Yeah.
And then I feel better when we're doing it on a long run, because you can just like focus right on that.
Yeah.
There's no, that's hard for me. Like, especially if that takes a lot of energy. You're creating something. So to have like 2 days, like I remember the couple times I tried to work and then go do it, I was like a mess. It's so hard.
It's tough. Yeah.
Especially if you're putting your whole self into something, and I'm that type of person. So, I mean, I feel like any artist would say that it's super hard to transition. I mean, even when I come home from work, I like sit in my car for 10 minutes just to transition into, you know, so yeah, I would say we would be totally, I wish.
Yeah.
That would be amazing. Anybody that wants to support us, I'll take it.
This is in our bio, we call this our passion project. And it really is like, this is kind of turned into the band I've been hoping to have for like the last 20 years now.
Okay.
And actually our bass player is, I've been best friends with him for over 20 years. And this is the band we always wanted to have together. So it's really the hope that we, at some point when, you know, COVID-19, hopefully it disappears, we could actually do this to the potential it deserves.
Yeah.
So.
Very cool. Yeah. No doubt. I mean, I did see that you guys were planning on putting out full length in 2022. Is that still the plan for you guys?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It is. Okay. Very cool. And in terms of playing live shows, I mean, now that obviously, you know, live music is open now, I mean, are you guys currently looking to play live, or are you just sort of waiting till things sort of, because I know right now, obviously, everybody and their mother is wants to play right now. So the amount of supply of bands is obviously plentiful, but the key is obviously there's been a lot of clubs and a lot of, you know, bars that have closed down during COVID. So obviously that's going to put a kink in terms of a lot of bands sort of in your guys' shoes that want to play, and you got to have all these other bands supported by labels and so forth taking over these slots. Is it something that you guys are looking for right now, or are you just going to kind of wait a little bit and maybe release the full length and then, you know, maybe look to tour for the record?
We were actually planning on trying to do some stuff, but then we decided it was for the best to wait until after we do the full length.
Okay.
There's a lot, you're right. There's a lot of competition to get shows right now. And it's kind of still not the best idea to get out there and play shows. I mean, there's still tons of huge bands like the Deftones, for instance, that postponed their shows again till next year because nobody really knows what's going to happen. So it's a big risk.
And it's like a big production for us to be able to.
For us, yeah.
We want it to be like a good one, like a nice.
Well, yeah, and half of our band lives in South and North Carolina. So like for us to do something, it's really got to be the right thing. It's got to be planned out. Like Witch Kiss, for instance, we have some shows next month, and
September.
We're all like close by. Well, her and I are like most of the band, and they're like Northeast shows, so it's a lot easier.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, awesome, great. Well, I mean, so obviously, yeah. So once again, I mean, the EP Blood Feather comes out August 6th. And why don't you go ahead and just tell the audience where they can go ahead and keep up with you guys, and where they can find Blood Feather.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, I guess I'm doing it. Bandcamp is our number one spot, and that's Guhts at Bandcamp, Guhts. It's also going to be on Spotify and Apple Music and all of the major streaming platforms.
YouTube too. We have videos on YouTube.
We have a YouTube channel. Also, we have a limited edition CD besides the digital download. And also we have a t-shirt that we're going to be premiering this week too. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very good. All right. Well, great. Once again, the band is Guhts. The album, the EP is Blood Feather, August 6th. And Amber and Scott, thank you guys both for coming on, and good luck with everything. And can't wait to hear the full length next year.
Thank you for having us.
Nice
meeting
All
you.
right, guys. Great. Take care. Nice to meet you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye, guys.
myhappydesires.com. Visit us at myhappydesires.com and add some toys to your toy box. Let your imagination be the guide to your stress relief. myhappydesires.com has everything for the perfect play night. Alone or not, you choose. Fuel your desires without breaking the bank. myhappydesires.com.
right, we're back here with Aftershocks Tremors. You just heard and saw the video for Eyes Open by our guest this week, Guhts. Really cool song, cool video, and yeah, it was great talking to both Amber and Scott. As I said, they've got, like I said, it's a different sound as you can hear. Definitely, like I said, sort of that 90s type of sound. And it's kind of interesting too, because that band has another band. Both of them, Scott and Amber, have another band, as we mentioned in the interview, called Witch Kiss,
right,
which is a really much different sounding stuff than what Guhts is. But they're a cool band too, Witch Kiss. So check them out. And yeah, it was great talking to them. And hopefully we'll see more and hear more from them in the future.
I would think so, man. They just have that sound that I think can make a dent right now if they can reach the right people, man, because that sound it's not so heavy that it pushes people away, and it's not so commercial that people will be like, oh, it's a fucking pussy band. It's kind of in the pocket where it needs to be. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's one of those bands too. If you put them on a bill, if on say a 4 or 5 band bill, you fit them right in between with a lot of other heavier bands. It's sort of like a break, you know what I mean, kind of thing. Yeah. Which, like you said, it's not that heavy at all. Yet, like I said, it's not some real light, super radio friendly stuff. It's definitely edgy still. And like I said, it's just very accessible, to all types of rock and metal fans and stuff. So, yeah, I think there's going to be some good stuff coming from them. And so it was cool talking to them. And I'd say once again, great time with our first edition of Aftershocks Tremors back after an 8-month delay. And we're going to continue to feature a lot more of these newer bands for you guys. And hopefully everyone out there enjoyed it. And, look forward to doing the next version of this. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully it's not another 8 months.
Well, that we'll make sure of. In fact, we've already got bands lined up, so it won't be 8 months at all, obviously.
No doubt.
Yeah, so,
dude, I what's funny is I don't even think in 2021 saying that there was an 8-month hiatus in 2021 that doesn't even make anybody shake their head. They're just like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's
true, yeah, right, because everything going on. That's true, yeah. It's like, oh yeah, everyone's been on a hiatus, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly. We've been on a 18-month hiatus.
Yeah, right.
What's 8 months? You guys are rookies.
Hell yeah. Cool, man. All right. Well, great time, Chris. And we'll see everybody back here again for our next episode of Aftershocks Tremors.
Peace.
Hey, this is Mariah Mika from Plush, and you're watching Heavy Metal Television.